Boarding at the gate, see my name on the light. Carry on small, I'm ready for the flight. Boeing 757 taking off tonight. Got that window seat, feeling alright. Clouds in the glass, we're climbing fast. Hold on now, baby, this one won't last. 757 to Frisco, take me where the cool wind blows. 757 to Frisco, I'm smiling high, I'm moving slow. San Francisco, San Francisco. Ooh, on my way. Snack car roll by with the ginger and tea. Wingtip shining like it's dancing for me. Over blue water, then the hills come in view. Golden Gate waiting and the sky feels new. Clouds in the past, we're climbing fast. Hold on now, baby, this one won't last. 757 to Frisco, take me where the cool wind blows. 747 to Frisco, I'm smiling high, I'm moving slow. San Francisco, San Francisco. Ooh, on my way. Seatbelt on, but my heart's still free. Palm trees fade out to the open sea. One more turn and the coast comes alive. I'm ready to land, ready to arrive. 747 to Frisco, take me where the cool wind blows. 747 to Frisco, I'm smiling high, I'm moving slow. San Francisco, San Francisco. Ooh, yeah, on my way. Yeah, 757 to Frisco. 757 San Francisco.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome friends to another featured flight. Yes, here we are. We are sitting here in Salt Lake City this morning. We are loading up the 757-300 Delta Air Lines, heading on out to San Francisco this morning. One of my favorite airports in the sim here, Salt Lake City, and heading to one of my favorite landing destinations, San Francisco. So welcome in everybody. You can see we're boarding the plane right now. Luggage is being put on board, catering's doing their thing. We're just getting everything ready to rock and roll here and head on out this morning in this early morning flight. Before we get anything going here with the flight today, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed to this channel over the last year's time. I never thought, starting this channel back in June of 2025, that we would be at 500 subscribers already here, halfway through the year 2026. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all of your guys' interest and passion for the channel. We have really created a fantastic community here, and it is all of you who help create that community and make it what it is. So thank you guys so much. Without you, I'm just some guy flying airplanes on his computer. So thank you so much for being here and partaking in this amazing hobby here with me. Like I said, today we're sitting here in Salt Lake City. We are going to be taking the pencil plane Delta Airlines. I thought about doing this in the United livery. However, things kind of just changed in terms of my plans. So we're going to fly with Delta. We're going to be taking this out and having some fun here today. So let's hop into the cockpit here. Let's get things started. Let's not waste any time. We're just going to get some things kind of programmed here, ready to go. We are on VATSIM this morning, so no controllers are currently online, but we'll go ahead and make sure we're tuned in. And I think we already are tuned in to CTAF. Yes, that 119.050. We're all good to go there. So while passengers are boarding and luggage is being put on board and catering is being taken care of, we're going to go ahead and just take care of things here. We had our first officer in the plane here this morning before us. Thankfully, was able to enter in our flight plan, get things kind of up and running here in the cockpit, which has been very helpful. Today we are going to be looking at about an hour-and-a-half flight, looking at everything weather-wise. Should be calm winds here in Salt Lake City, calm winds coming in to San Francisco this morning. So really good flying conditions all throughout, which has been really nice to have out here on the West Coast. If you're flying in the East Coast, either in the real world or in the sim, you are going to be dealing with a lot of that haze from those wildfires in northern Minnesota and southern Canada. So we're going to go ahead and get our squawk entered in here, 7711. We'll flip this to TA and get that on and reporting. Very good. We'll get our flight directors on, and oh, you know what? I think what I need to do, I need to turn off my WinWing autopilot panel because that does conflict with this plane. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then our flight directors will come online. So we'll do that. We'll get our seatbelts and no smoking to on. We're pretty much all good to go here. But yeah, you guys, this is the 757. I can see this is going to be a conflict. They actually have the WinWing panel for the FMC working with this plane. So I'm using that, and it's also now working with the 777. So if you have that, make sure you're using your FMC WinWing panel because that is going to be a game changer. So all right, so flight directors are now on. I got my panel turned off, and that immediately fixed that problem. So I actually had that on my flight a few weeks back and totally forgot that that was a conflict. So anyway, back to our flight here today, guys. We're going to be looking at about a flight level of 34,000 feet. We're probably going to climb higher than that. I think we might even go as high as 40,000. We'll just kind of see how winds are doing and what the FMC is telling us is most optimal. But we're going to be carrying with us 226 passengers on board. Don't mind the empty cabin. We're just going to pretend that they're all loading in here. But I just want to show you the cabin here. You know, this plane is old, right? This plane has been around in X-Plane 11. It's been here in X-Plane 12, but they have done a whole bunch of new art rendering for this plane, mostly in the cockpit. I don't believe they did a whole lot here in the cabin. I think the wing textures are still a little bit tired looking. They definitely could use some love, but here in the cockpit, I think it's looking really good. So if this is something that you have not picked up for your X-Plane sim yet and kind of have been on the fence on it because maybe you're waiting for you know, more updates, I think this plane passes that level of you know, acceptance, right? Obviously, if you're over in Microsoft, the Bluebird 7.5 coming out later this year is going to be definitely worth the wait, and I would definitely recommend it over this plane just due to the fact that this plane is going to be so outdated compared to what Bluebird is going to be hopefully releasing this year. But if you're only on X-Plane and you want a 7.5, this is the best option. So so we'll go ahead and get our pushback all good to go here. I'm just going to kind of work on some things here. Like I said, our flight plan is already entered. All our fuel weights, balances, I did all of that before I loaded in here to the stream. So we're pretty much ready to go and get pushback out of here. And we'll start getting some things closed up here outside. But overall, you guys, I'm really happy with this 7.5. I think, you know, the fact that Flight Factor continues to give updates consistently is a great sign. They're not updating it as much as, say, like their 777, right? That wouldn't be expected. But earlier this year, and it might have been later last year in 2025, they updated the cockpit textures, and it has made a huge difference. And even the 7.6 has gotten an overhaul with cockpit textures as well, and it's made this plane even that much more fun to fly and enjoyable. So like I said, the wing textures I think are some tired looking textures still. They could improve that. The the wheels and the all the like the intricate modeling around the wheels and the wheel well, that could use some work still. But keep in mind, this is an older product. This is a X-Plane 11 into X-Plane 12 plane, so I would not expect it to be any more high quality, especially without a version 2 being released, which hopefully would be coming here eventually, but no announcement, of course, anytime soon around that. So alright guys, so let's just look at our flight plan here coming out of Salt Lake. So one thing I want to take a look at here, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I wasn't sure, I didn't pull up my chart, I just kind of selected an approach, and you can kind of see we're not in line here with runway 28 right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and we're going to see what our other options are here for our arrival. So most likely we just need to select the 28 right Zulu arrival. So the one thing about landing into San Francisco is you want to make sure that your approach is programmed in a way that you really feel comfortable with. San Francisco is one of the more challenging airports to land into, both in the real world and the sim, just from a visual perspective. Of course, I'm not a real world pilot, so I'm not going to be the expert here, but just from what I have heard other pilots talk about, what I have experienced myself here, at least in X-Plane, that San Francisco is one of the more challenging, and so you don't want to come in too high or too low. You want to be on your glide slope. So we can do an ILS. I may switch it to an ILS approach later on, but for right now, we'll just stick with an RNAV, and we'll probably just go ahead and make that switch later depending on if conditions change or whatever. So what we'll do is we'll go down here back to the FMC. We'll get this all reprogrammed here. I want to go over to arrivals, and I'm using my WinWing FMC, so that's why you're not seeing any actual clicks. So we're going to have Archie selected for our transition. We're on the Diamond 5 arrival with the Inouye transition. And then now, just kind of cycling through, we'll clear up that discontinuity. And now we'll pull up our map here. And then we're just going to cycle through and take a look at what this looks like. So you saw in that first go, we weren't coming in straight on with the runway. But now when you look, we are following that dotted line right into runway 28 right. So that is perfect. That's what we want to see. And if we do switch to an ILS, we're going to be looking for that same thing. So for right now, RNAV is fine, but we might go ahead and switch over. I do like ILS approaches much better. I think just from a keeping you on profile standpoint, I think that is the better option of the two. So all right, we'll go down to our FMC here. We will get the plane all loaded up. I see our fuel weight is not entered in properly, so we're going to have to make sure that gets in. So fuel weight is going to be 23,362. And then we will let the plane fuel up. So I still see we're at 8,000 pounds. I have to say, the last time I flew this plane a couple weeks ago, I had a little bit of trouble getting the fuel to load through the tablet. It loaded the passengers, it loaded the cargo weight, but it had a hard time loading the fuel. So if it doesn't, once it's done with this cycle of saying loading the airplane, I'm going to go ahead and probably have to manually go into the X-Plane menu, which I don't want to do, but I may have to do that to get our fuel actually on board. So I'm going to stay close to that. That might have just been something with the last update that it may have borked it, but for right now, that's really the only thing I've come across with this plane that has been a recent issue. Normally in the past, this plane has been absolutely fantastic, and yeah, you can see it's still saying 8,000 pounds. So we got to make sure that that gets corrected, and we should be good to go here. Even if I have to go in manually, we'll be okay. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are just about boarded. It looks like baggage is almost done outside. We're going to get our fuel on board, and we are going to get on out of here. We will push back from the gate here any moment. You can see we have one friend down, Delta 2671 in an A320. He's heading off to Dallas, Fort Worth, it looks like. So he's going to be pushing back here shortly. We'll try and get out here before him. But you guys, before we get our pushback, look at this image here of all like the ground vehicles, the cones. Look at how dirty that tarmac looks with this Xcoder Designs airport enhancement. I'm telling you guys, if you don't have that yet in your sim, that is the best $20 I have ever spent of anything that I've added to the simulator. It is that right there. It is absolutely fantastic. It adds every single airport, almost like a payware quality ground texture into your sim. Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot to, like make the airport look like it does in real life, but the ground texture is absolutely fantastic. So I highly recommend picking that up. It's about, what, a little over $20. It completely transforms your sim. Please check out my review video on it. I posted one a couple months ago, and it really is a game changer. So you can just see exactly what this looks like and how great those textures look. So highly, highly recommend it. Alright guys, back here in the cockpit, let's go ahead and get our last couple doors here closed. Passenger door and cargo door can go closed. We'll detach the jetway. We will call our pushback, and we will get pushed on out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Pull up on our tablet. Now, here's the thing with the 7.5 I really want to see. If they do any other update to this plane, it is to get that tablet mounted. The fact that we still, in 2026, with this Flight Factor 757, have to click on that tablet to get it to pop up on your screen, like, I don't care if that becomes an option, right? Like, if you want to have the option in the EFB to turn it on and still be the same tablet as old because you want that old time feel, like, go for it. But I want an option where that thing is going to be mounted to my left here and be, mounted like you see in any other airplane. And the tablet doesn't even need to change, right? I think the tablet is fine. It gives me everything that I need and what I look for. However, to have that mounted just adds so much. And I just really feel like it could be a big thing to add. So we'll turn down our PAX announcement here so that way we can get our cabin sim announcement going for Delta Airlines. But yeah, I feel like, it's time to mount that tablet to that side window for both the pilot and co-pilot. And I was really hoping that when they did the updates last year to the cockpit textures, that was going to at least be an option to impose on there. And so basically it hasn't, obviously. And it's something I don't think will ever come. I think it's just, it is what it is. They've kind of moved on to other projects, Flight Factor, with their A350 and their 777. But yeah, this tablet here, it's fine the way it is in terms of how it looks. I just want it mounted. I just think it looks so much better, and it just looks more modern. And, this plane is still flying in the world, and the cockpit looks, very unique and everything, but I really think that mounting it will just kind of give it a little bit more of a modern take on it. So I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments. I've always thought that with this plane, and it's just been kind of a thing I've always thought about whenever I load into it, that maybe one day we'll have a mounted tablet. Alright, so we have engine number 2 going. Fuel has been injected, and we're good to go. We need to do our pushback. Salt Lake Delta 320 Heavy pushing back.
Do not adjust your seat and ask
Yeah.
a crew member for help.
Hold on. I
As you
didn't.
leave the gate, fasten your seatbelt
Hold
by
on.
inserting the metal tip
There we
into
go.
the buckle
All
and
right.
adjusting the strap so it's low and tight across your lap. To release,
This guy's just
lift
going to
the
drive
top
right
of
through
the
our plane.
buckle.
Look at
If your seat has a shoulder
that. He's
harness,
not waiting.
attach the metal tip
Okay,
to the
all right.
on the belt.
Okay, let's try this again. We should have called before we pushed back. That is bad pilots. Bad pilots right there. All right. Salt Lake Delta 320 pushing back from stand Alpha 27. Salt Lake. Okay. So there we go with that. I didn't have my push to talk set up there, so I was talking to literally nobody. Alright, so pushing back, engine number 1 now up and running. Engine number 2 is a go. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, pushing out of Salt Lake. This is default scenery you're seeing, other than the Xcoder scenery design ground textures. That Xcoder design scenery will add objects. It will add some buildings at some airports. It'll take some buildings that are part of default and kind of make them have a little bit more detail to them. But everything else you see here is default, and I just think that X-Plane airports just look absolutely fantastic for default scenery. I know that's one thing that, you know, we talk a lot about here, especially on this channel lately, right, is the graphics here in X-Plane and how it compares to Microsoft. But I'm telling you, like, doing something as simple as that Xcoder designer scenery and getting your ground textures figured out, and it just has made a huge difference. Oh, this guy, oh, okay, I thought he was going to wait, and he's just going to drive right under our plane. Okay. All right. I tell ya, they have no patience here in Salt Lake. All right, parking brake on. We'll let him detach, and we will go ahead and get our trim set. It looks like it's going to be 3.4 on the trim this morning. We'll set that to 3.4. Wonderful. But yeah, you know, if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you know that the one thing I like to do is run my sim pretty vanilla. The way that X-Plane is designed and the way that the file format is, you know, doing the i9 files and all of that with these sceneries, I really try to avoid not touching my sim. It's a pain in the ass, to be honest with you, and I really don't like to go into my file structure any more than I have to. There are times, of course, that, you know, something like the Xcoder design thing will come out, and I'll be like, okay, I have to make that happen, right? But the way that the X-Plane file structure is laid out is so archaic, and it needs to change. If there ever is an X-Plane 13, if we do see that day, it needs to absolutely be like what Microsoft has, where you just have a community folder and things just go in there, and you know, you can use things like add-on linker to, you know, make sure that, you know, your community folder isn't loading in fully every time, you know, whatever that looks like, right? But you know, if I were to go get, you know, the Salt Lake scenery and the Denver scenery, which is Xcoder, right, for Denver, I just, you know, I just, every time I have to go into that folder and restructure those i9 files, it's just, I think you're just asking for trouble in your sim. And I would much rather have a simulator that is working and is reliable and don't have to deal with crashing, you know, to desktop, where I know I can start and finish a flight and not have to worry about that. It is definitely a much more enjoyable experience for me. So I run my sim pretty vanilla. I only have a few things. You know, if you've seen my plugin list drop down, I don't run a lot of plugins. I probably run more now than I did a year ago, but I've kept it, you know, if the plugins are running right now, it's because I have built a trust with them and they haven't crashed the sim. I would say the only thing that crashes the sim as of late is the Xcoder design scenery, believe it or not, and it's the one thing that I say you absolutely need to have in your X-Plane. But in the however many months I've had it, I've maybe had 2 crashes, and so I guess that just shows you how important and how much detail this Xcoder Designs scenery enhancement package for your airports adds to your sim. It makes a world of a difference, and just makes it all that much better. All right. Okay, we should have called for taxiing, but we're failing here as pilots, you guys. We are failing here as pilots. All right. So we're going to taxi here to 16 right, and we will be out of here in just a moment. I'm sorry, 16 left, and we'll be out of here in just a moment. Salt Lake traffic, Delta 320 heavy, taxiing runway 16 left, Salt Lake. It's just that other guy at the other gate, so we're not too concerned about it. But we should have called for a taxi before we left our gate there and our parking position. So got to pay more attention, right? We're too into our scenery right now and talking about our scenery. So all right, guys, so yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, looking here at, you know, the surrounding area, you can see the mountains. You know, it's what, 7 o'clock in the morning here in the sim. You know, over to our left we have the airplane hangar. You know, like, all those planes are from the default scenery. Those are not implemented by anything else that I have running. So You know, X-Plane has done a great job over the years with their default scenery, making sure that it looks fantastic at the airports. Now, once you get outside of the airports and you're talking about cityscapes and you're talking about just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, we all know X-Plane struggles, and we all know the problems that X-Plane continues to have with that. In my latest video that I had, kind of showcasing all of that, you know, talking about what is the future of X-Plane. You know, I talk about what does the future look like for X-Plane. If they can't get next-gen scenery up and running here within the next year, you know, what does the user base look like? You know, I like to believe that I will always be an X-Plane user. It's, you know, where I started and back in 2017. It's the sim I fell, you know, in love with, and it's the sim that I fell in love, you know, with this hobby with. But everything kind of has a timetable put to it, right? Because as developers are only going to Microsoft, and as, you know, new airplanes are coming out, and there's not a Microsoft version and an X-Plane version. There's only a Microsoft version. You know, how much longer do you wait? You know, for example, you know, my true test will be when that Vector 787 comes out compared to when the Flight Factor 787 comes out. If, you know, the Flight Factor 787 comes out here soon, you know, the Vector 787 may not be as much of an intrigue, right? But if the Vector 787 comes out later this year, as they claim it is, and if it's getting great reviews, and here I am, you know, almost 10 years into this simulator, right? Being X-Plane, you know, 4 years for X-Plane 12, and we still don't have that 787. You know, it kind of leaves your hands tied a little bit, especially when you want to fly certain airplanes. So it's just one of those things that, you know, we as flight simmers have to consider and, you know, weigh our options. And, you know, we put a lot of our money into these simulators, and we want to make sure that, you know, we're putting our money into the right places. And if X-Plane does not, you know, keep up with the times, and I'm not even saying like competing with Microsoft. They don't have to be a one-to-one copy of Microsoft. No one, I think, is asking that. But I really feel like if they don't keep up with the times in their file structures and how they do that in their next-gen scenery, it will be, you know, time's going to tell if they're going to survive this, or are they going to go the way of P3D, which would really be a shame, because there's still some great developers right now in X-Plane, albeit there are a few, but there are still some. So it would be a shame to see those companies falter. Alright, here we go. We are going to be getting onto 16 left. Salt Lake traffic, Delta 320 heavy, lining up runway 16 left for departure, Salt Lake. Ah, we didn't miss our call that time, did we? Right. Lining up for 16 left, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Yeah, look at those mountains. I think those mountains look great right now. The sun coming over, that morning sun looks fantastic. All right, we'll get all lined up. All right, very good. All right, throttle's to 40%. And slight forward down pressure on the yoke, and let's go. Do have 4,000 feet of elevation, so it's going to be a little bit longer of a takeoff roll. Alright, V1, and rotate. You can tell we're at that higher elevation. Alright, we gotta have a real gentle pullback on that yoke. We do have a long aircraft here. Do not want to tail strike. Alright, pause the brake, gear up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are climbing out of Salt Lake. Alright, we'll give you some wing views as we are climbing out of Salt Lake this morning. It is definitely looking good with that sky color, the sun rising over those mountains. X-Plane has done such a great job over the last year to really hone in on their light model. You know, X-Plane traditionally has been known to have, you know, struggle in their cockpit lighting and things like that. And over the last year, like, all of those issues have been taken care of and addressed. And really, by, you know, focusing on just your lighting, it's just, it makes such a big difference in this sim. And you can just look out this window and really tell, like, you know, this is an early morning flight, and the sky color, the way it looks, the sun, the way the bloom from the sun is, it really just, it X-Plane has done such a nice job with making sure that they've really focused on their clouds, and they've focused on their sky color. They focused on the overall lighting of their sim, and it's really just created a very immersive sim. So, you know, I don't run map enhancements, but imagine what this, you know, departure would look like with a map enhancement. It would look absolutely fantastic. And those of you who run those map enhancements, you know, I can only imagine what your sim looks like. You know, for me, I like to keep my sim running more vanilla, as I mentioned earlier in the video here. But, you know, a view such as this would look absolutely fantastic with that map enhancement. And hopefully with that next generation scenery coming in the next, you know, maybe year or two, fingers crossed, you know, this is something that would just be, you know, a fantastic departure out of Salt Lake. Salt Lake is a fun departure no matter what, because you got the high elevation, you've got the mountains around you. You know, it's really a cool departure nonetheless. But then if you add in that next generation scenery, all the lighting that X-Plane has done, and then of course the fantastic flight model of the sim, you know, what more could you really ask for? So yeah, it's been always fun to fly out of Salt Lake in this sim. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite airports to fly in and out of, and I always look forward to any flight that comes in and out of here. All right, friends, so we're going to continue taking off here towards the south. We are going to eventually have our turn west, and we'll be on our way to San Francisco. And we're going to also break here for our intermission. When we return, we're going to be on our descent into San Francisco, as we are going to be setting up for a runway 28 right, most likely going to be on an ILS approach into San Francisco. But right now we are set up for that RNAV Zulu approach. So either way will work, but I might go ahead and switch that, as I do prefer ILS after all. And we'll get one last look here as we are departing Salt Lake. You can see the Great Salt Lake off in the distance. The airport somewhere back there. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the intermission, and we will see you on the flip side. Alright everybody, welcome back from the intermission. Hope you enjoyed the relaxing acoustic music. Yeah, here we are. We are on our descent. We're at 17,000 feet. We did go up to 40,000 feet on our way over here to San Francisco. The optimal level was quickly from 34 to 40,000, so I was like, alright, perfect, we'll take that. Not a problem whatsoever. But with that, because we were at 40,000 feet, our target descent also started a little earlier. So here we are coming down. And yeah, we're making our way into the Bay Area this morning. So very nice flights, very good views. It's been smooth the whole way. You can see there's no clouds in the sky around here. There's just some far off in the distance, but we're looking at some calm conditions coming in to San Francisco this morning. Here we are on the map. As you can see, this is our flight path coming in, and we're going to be on the Diamond 5 arrival. And we're going to be making our way in. You can see United landing just about right now. I think he was coming in from Tokyo. But yeah, it's been a great flight and a nice flight here on Flightsim. So still no controller on in the San Francisco area. So right now we are on our own here. We'll just stay on frequency and make sure that we are giving our call outs here as we come into the area and giving our intentions as we come on down. Alright, we are just about to pass under 10,000 feet, so with that we are going to be getting everything pretty much ready to go. I just turned the landing lights on as we are coming into the Bay Area here. We're on the Archie transition coming in to runway 28 right. We did switch over to the ILS approach for San Francisco, and I think with San Francisco that is the smarter way to land this plane. Especially the 757, it can be a trickier landing. It's a long plane to land. You know, the speed can kind of get away from you a little bit if you're focusing too much on, you know, if you're on profile or not. So having an ILS approach kind of keeps you on that glide slope a little bit more than what like an RNAV would. At least that's what I have experienced. It's a little bit more of a precise approach into your runway. So definitely prefer that. We're going to be using auto brake 1 in our landing here today. We're not an overly heavy aircraft, so we shouldn't have too big of a problem here, and the conditions are really good, so we're not too concerned about that. But one thing I do want to keep an eye on here is our speed, so we're going to throw out some speed brake here. Let that speed come on down. Now that we're under 10,000 feet, we are required to be under 250 knots, and you can see we are breaking all kinds of rules right now as we are over speeding here a little bit. And that's one thing where I've kind of learned, you know, is where you become off profile is if you are not paying attention to your speeds, if you're kind of blowing through your waypoints and, you know, not making sure that your speeds are accurate, that your waypoints when they're so close together, as you can see on our PFD here, you know, you can easily blow through those, and then you're going to come in too high. The nice thing about San Francisco is it's a great visual approach in terms of coming into the area, so you can see here the Bay Area out in front of us, and when you are descending into San Francisco, you know, you can see, okay, all right, once I, you know, can see the bay starting here, you know, San Jose is off to my left, I've got the bay out here in front of me, you know, this is when I really got to make sure I'm paying attention to my speed and making sure that I'm in line with everything that I need to be doing. So we're just going to continue to bleed off some of this speed. I'm going to just put in 230 here and just keep us kind of at a manual speed mode, so that way I'm forcing myself to kind of stay on top of it. Back in my earlier flight simming days, you know, a lot of this stuff you wouldn't realize until you have enough experience. And one thing I can say is make sure, you know, when you're landing a plane, you know, your landing truly starts well before the runway, right? Being set up on profile, making sure your speed's not getting away from you, making sure you're not too high, not too low, you're hitting your waypoint altitudes. And if you're coming in kind of, you know, all, you know, there's San Jose up to our left there. You know, if you're not on profile and you're just all discombobulated, right? It can make for a very tough landing. Right there, San Jose. Very nice. Landed in there about a week or two ago. I think I had an on arrival on that one. Nice, nice, nice. But yeah, so, you know, here's the San Francisco Bay out in front of us. We're just going to basically follow this all the way in. That's what's kind of nice about landing on the 2.8s here in San Francisco, is you can kind of just follow it and it'll get you pretty much right where you need to be. We'll go speed 210. We'll just let the plane kind of do its thing here. No speed brakes are needed right now as the plane is descending, or not descending, well, it is descending, but it's bleeding off that speed on its own. Alright, things are looking good. Got a little bit of speed brake out now, just to make sure that we're maintaining that speed of 210. I don't want to get down to 210 and then have it increase speed again as we're continuing to lose altitude. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and knock our speed down here a little bit more, down to 190. As we are about 15 miles out from the airport right now, so we want to make sure that we are getting ourselves nice and stable for our approach. I mentioned earlier in the video that San Francisco can be a tougher airport to land into, and you know, San Francisco a lot of times will have a lot of foggy conditions, right? Because you got the Bay Area, just, you know, the way that the landscape around it is kind of designed. So from a visual perspective, we're actually very lucky here this morning to have such a clear morning, but you can kind of see that the sim is picking up some of that distant haze, right? So that marine layer that we like to say in the early morning here. And so, you know, a lot of times when you land early morning in even like San Diego too, you see it, LA has it, right? You get that marine layer. It does make for a challenging approach because you don't have the visual approach, you know, 10-mile visibility that you want to have normally. And you can see our lead in here. Remember, we went and made sure that we had that straight on approach, and this is why, because if we were landing in San Francisco with less than ideal conditions, where maybe there was a lot of fog and everything, we want to make sure that we can follow our instruments and make sure that the instruments are guiding us in. Alright, so we can start to see some of our friends here at the San Francisco International Airport appearing at the gate on our screen. So we're about 10 miles out. We're going to go ahead and just let them know we are on our way in to runway 28 right this morning. San Francisco traffic, Delta 320 heavy on a 10-mile final into ILS runway 28 right, San Francisco. Alright, and with that we can go ahead and arm our localizer. And then once the glide slope has been captured, we can go ahead and arm approach. There, very good. Alright, so now the plane is going to keep us on our 3-degree slope all the way down to the runway. And then we can get our altitude all the way down, and the plane will just keep on descending us. Now, I have had in videos past, whether it's on arrival, we may have even done, I think I did a review video on this airport. I did remove the Mr. X scenery, so this is going to be the default scenery of San Francisco that you're going to see in X-Plane 12. The reason why I removed that scenery is not because it didn't work or anything like that in terms of like how it overlaid on the sim. I couldn't get the jet bridges to work. The jet bridges were kind of finicky to begin with, and every so often I would park at a gate and I would get them to work. But for the most part, I couldn't get any of the jet bridges to work with the most recent updates of X-Plane. So I might try to reinstall it here in the next few months and see if it changes. I think my Mr. X Boston still works just fine. The jetways seem to be okay with using the OpenSAM, but for whatever reason, lately the jetways here at this airport have not responded to the OpenSAM plugin for the jetways. So I'm kind of a jetway snob. I like that visual. So for the sake of our video here today and taxiing to the gate, parking at the gate, I wanted that visual of using the jetways. So if we were flying cargo, I probably would go ahead and have the Mr. X scenery in here, as that wouldn't obviously matter, but for the sake of today's video and just being able to use jetways, I wanted to make sure we had that. So but keep in mind though, the the misdirect scenery is fantastic and everything, and it's really well done, especially for a free scenery. But the default scenery is just as good. They model the San Francisco iconic ATC tower. You know, I wouldn't say that the scenery is bad by any means. It's still a very good San Francisco, being that it's default X-Plane 12 scenery. All right, 2,500 feet. Let's go ahead and drop that landing gear, and we are going to be set up here for our arrival. 138 is going to be our final landing speed. I'm going to keep us at 142 right now, just a little above it. But once I take over from autopilot, we'll just be on manual thrust. So we'll just try to keep it right around that 138 mark. Okay, we're about 5 miles out from the airport. We have the field in sight. See, we got a United 777-200. We got an A321 Alaska Airlines. Looks like that's very nice. All right, a couple friends here at the airport. All right, so we are all lit up. Landing lights on. We are good to go. In just a moment, we're going to take over from autopilot. One last look over here at the Bayside area. We're currently 1,500 feet above the ground. I believe that Alaskan is heading to Seattle. Not sure about the United guy at the gate. All right, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect autopilot. It is gonna be my airplane, my throttle, and let's have some fun, friends. Here we go. I wanna make sure we do not overflare the plane. It is a long plane, just like on takeoff. We wanna be easy on that yoke. Flying Pappies right now. Pappies say we're a little high, so we're just going to go ahead and dip that nose down. Still saying we're a little high. We're going to keep dipping that nose down, get back on profile. Alright, 3 white. Looking for 2 white, 2 red. There we go, 2 white, 2 red. We're back on profile. Back on that throttle, ease into that little bit of flare. She's gonna float a little bit. She's floating, and we are down. All right, firsters out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome down to San Francisco. A little bit floaty, but overall very good. Nice centered. We'll take it. Plenty of runway left. No big deal. We will go ahead and vacate here off to our left.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to
All right. San Francisco traffic, Delta 320 heavy vacating runway 28 right, San Francisco.
You can now use your mobile devices. Please remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop and the seatbelt sign is turned off. Remember to use caution when opening the overhead bins, as items may have been shifted during the flight. For flying with us.
All right, we're going to hold short of runway 27 left, so our friend here off to Seattle and the Alaskan Airlines is going to go ahead and take off. I can see him already starting to roll here on the map. San Francisco traffic, Delta 320 heavy, holding short runway 28 left, San Francisco. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and take off, and then once he has taken off, we'll go ahead and cross the runway. There he is. See ya. Have a good flight. Very cool. Alright, San Francisco traffic, Delta 320 heavy, crossing runway 28 left, San Francisco. Alright, let's get across the runway. There's only one other plane here at the airport with us right now on Flightsim, so we are good to go. Nobody is coming in on either runway right now, so we are all set there. And we're going to head over to the Delta gates. Landing lights can come off. We'll go ahead and get that APU started. Get that up and running so we power at the gate. And again, you guys, this is the Xcoder Design ground enhancements here at the airport. And you can just see how fantastic it looks for a default airport. The ground textures look absolutely fantastic for anything default. It'll increase your ground textures at every single airport in your sim. It doesn't matter if it's a San Francisco or if it's something out in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't matter. It's going to make it look like a third-party ground texture. So highly, highly recommend it. All right, we're going to be parking at gate Bravo 8, so we're going to be taking a right here in our next right. And the gate should be right there in front of us. Right off to our right to see it. And we're just going to go straight in. Okay, we're going to slow down a little bit. Alright, there's our gate, Bravo 8. And we're just going to get ourselves lined up here. You can see all of like the vehicles and everything too around the gates that is added in by that Xcoder Design scenery enhancement. And we will set that parking brake. Go over to our parking brake there. We'll set that, and with that, we are ready to start deboarding here. We're going to shut our engine number 2, engine number 1 down. Very good. Let those spool down. We'll go up top. We'll go and attach the jetway. And then we'll go over here to our EFB. We'll go to ground. We will grab our chocks. And we'll go to airplane. And we will get our forward passenger door open. Our cargo doors open. And we will get that all ready to go for our grounds crew. Seatbelt signs can come off, no smoking sign can come off, and we will turn our window heats off, and yaw dampers can come off. That's all good. Fuel pumps can come off. We'll leave the forward one on, and we can go ahead and turn our engine switches off. And ladies and gentlemen, we are down in San Francisco. We'll go up top here to our real ops menu. We'll get everything entered in here that we need for our deboarding process. 226 passengers to deboard. And we will go unload cargo, deboarding, we'll deselect catering, we'll do lavatory service, and that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and hit start service. 15 minutes on the total deboarding process. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have made our way into San Francisco to the gates. We'll get our final lights off here. Runway turn-offs can come off. All of our anti-collision lights can come off. And, oh, that jetway wants to get away from us. There we go. Bring that back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome down to San Francisco on a successful flight here in the pencil plane, the Boeing 757-300 from Delta Air Lines. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. And again, thank you all so much for subscribing to the channel as we have elapsed 500 subscribers, you guys. Absolutely fantastic. Cannot wait to do the 1,000 subscriber flight here, hopefully in the next year's time. So thank you all so much for joining me here today. Please like, comment, subscribe, and as always, we'll see you up in the skies. Take care, everyone.
757 to Frisco, take me where the cool wind blows. 757 to Frisco. with the ginger and tea. Wingtip shining like it's dancing for me. Over blue water, then the hills come in view. Golden Gate waiting and the sky feels new. Clouds in the past, we're climbing fast. Hold on now, baby, this one won't last. 757 to Frisco, take me where the cool wind blows. 757 to Frisco, I'm smiling high, moving slow. San Francisco, San Francisco. Ooh, on my way. Seatbelt on, but my heart's still free. Palm trees fade out to the open sea. One more turn and the coast comes alive. I'm ready to land, ready to arrive.